walking the awakening path. I am so grateful you are here. Today we are sharing sacred space with incredible Molly, founder of Sacred Sound Healing. Molly is intuitive life coach, sound healing practitioner and teacher, Reiki Master, and yoga instructor. Grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and join us as we dive into Molly's incredible awakening journey and the wisdom she has to share with us. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be able to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Molly, to be here with us. Molly, could you take us back to the beginning of your awakening journey?
Oh, yeah, it actually wasn't very long ago in the big scheme of things. I was, gosh, I want to say maybe 6 years ago that I had gone to a yoga class. I was at the time, I'll give a little bit more background on that. At the time, I was teaching high school. And I was, a high school teacher full time, had two kids, so trying to manage the kids' schedule, all the things at home. Things were a little rough on the forefront with my husband at that time. And so, and just like everything seemed to be like negative in my life. I was really thinking back on it. I was like, wow, how did I manage that time? Then I had gotten an email from a yoga studio in my work email saying all teachers can have 1 month, get one month free for summer yoga classes. And I'm like, I'm going to try yoga. I had done it in the past and really enjoyed it. And so I was like, I'm just going to go do some yoga. And that summer was transformational for me. It was that was like the beginning of everything. My teacher was from India, and he was very spiritual, and we were doing this class. He called it classic hatha yoga classes. So we were doing how he had learned in India. And so it's not only the poses, but also chanting along during the session. And I was a voice major and music major as an undergrad. I did my master's degree in ethnomusicology. So I was really like, wow, I just can't, even the words don't come to me now. Like it was so, I just could feel it so deeply. And I could feel like energy moving. And the funny thing is I say that now, but I didn't have the vocabulary to express moving energy or knowing even what I was feeling in my body as I was having these releases. I'm standing in warrior pose and I've got tears coming down my eye. It's just like, what is going on? So I was having lots of releases. And that summer, I went to a yoga class every single morning, weekdays at 6 a.m., weekends at 9 a.m. And then it was funny at the time, my two kids who were maybe 10 and 12, and it would get to the afternoon and they go, Mama, maybe you need to go back to yoga class today. So I could, just by that comment, that things are changing and I was feeling better. Like they could observe the changes and how I was doing. And yeah, that was the magical summer. And then I took a Reiki class. Actually, I took three Reiki classes. I did level 1 and 2 and level 3. So I am a master practitioner for Reiki. And then immediately, a friend of mine actually had not registered me, had introduced me to a yoga teacher who was doing yoga teacher training. She goes, I don't know why, but you need to meet Matisse. I was like, all right, so I just called her up. I was like, my friend said I needed to meet you. And she's like, okay. And so I ended up taking the yoga teacher training. And it was during that time, and going back to that first yoga class, it was mantra chanting, and another class at that same studio had crystal singing bowls. that was my introduction to sound healing, which is what I'm doing now, right? And I knew that that was something that needed to be part of my life. And I wrote a grant at my school to buy my first set of crystal singing bowls, and I would play them at the school for the students and for teachers at teacher meetings. I was just like all in when I wasn't teaching, which I was not teaching music, by the way. So when I was not teaching foreign language, then I was, working with the bowls and playing them for other classes. I went into special education classes and different had different classes set up where kids could sign up, like we had a tutorial time, kids could sign up and come to this class, and it was very popular, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the very beginning of it all.
Wonderful. And how incredible that actually you didn't know at that time things about the energy. And even without that, like, consciousness, that tears were coming and release was showing up. Uh, Incredible, Molly. Thank you for sharing. And with the yoga, how incredible. Wow. And then later on with the sound healing, like everything started to come to you by
Right.
itself.
Yes, yeah. It just, it's the doors started opening. And I go back to that all the time when people ask me, like, how did you create this business in such a short amount of time? Because I actually was only now 3.5 years ago that I quit teaching just all of a sudden. And I ended up selling my house. I sold everything in it. I drove intrastate from Indiana, which is where I was living for those 20 years teaching, and just got in my car with my two cats and drove across the country and opened my business. So people are like, how, in less than 2 years, really, I was making just as much money as I was when I quit my job as a high school teacher after teaching 30 years. So I always go back to it's like doors will open and others close. And it's that being aware of when the door is closing and not just keep rapping on it, and going like, come on, let me in. It's, knowing that that is a permanently shut door and your path is somewhere else, right? And what's coming to me as I'm talking about that is when I was teaching, I remember I what was coming to me all the time is like, there's something more for you. You're a teacher's teacher. You have something, a higher purpose for you. These, like, now I can think back and go, okay, that was my higher self talking to me. I couldn't express it at that time, but these thoughts were coming to my mind. And I even remember being asked to be the president of the Indiana uh, Foreign Language Teachers Association, like for the whole state. Like, would you please come into this? Like, I had won some awards and they're like, we want you in here. And my mind was like, this isn't it. And but then you talking to myself, really literally with myself, I guess, saying, one side of me is saying, this isn't it. And the other one going, yeah, but this is like teacher of teachers. This is what you keep saying. And it was just like, I decided to not take that. And then I kept applying for other positions in the school district to teach teachers how to do different things like technology or lesson planning and all of that. And I just kept door after door was shut. But as soon as I started doing sound healing, everything, it was like one thing after another. It was like, okay, this is it. This is the one I'm going to do. This is where I'm going. And even doing the certification for sound healing. And I looked at a whole bunch of different programs. And I just kept coming back to this one, the Sound Healing Academy. I was like, okay, I'm going to do that one. It's a, you know, It's in another state. It's a 6-hour drive. This is really scary. I don't know anything about it. And I signed up for level 1, immediately signed up for level 2. And this is way back. This is, again, back in Indiana, while I was still teaching high school. And then I decided, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this as my retirement gig. I thought, what would be better? Nothing could be better than just doing like sessions for people. I've got yoga and sound healing and Reiki. I can do all these things. And it was, so I had decided to do that, but there was a point where something happened, without going into a lot of detail in that, where I had actually, well, a little bit of detail. I took a year leave from high school, and I was going to go work at um, in another position, a holistic wellness job. And I was like, oh, this would be great. They have room for me to do sound healing and yoga. And I can work there for this 1 year and just see how it goes. At the very last minute, that job fell through. And I had already taken my year leave. So that's why I ended up selling my house. This is just a short story, is because I was not allowed to go back and take my job back. They had already hired somebody to replace me. And so I was in this position where I didn't have a job. And it was going to be for a full year. And I started looking around. It's like, it was still COVID, so nobody's hiring, right? um, so that was the big step where looking back now, I feel like the universe was just like, you're not waiting another 5 years until retirement. You're going to do it now. I was like, oh. So yeah, that's what happened.
What a journey, Molly. How did you handle that? That feels really scary. How did you handle that at that time? To, like, just to leave, I mean, the whole life behind, the old life, just to trust the universe and what it has for you. But how did you handle that?
That's a great question. Looking back, I don't know all the details now. At the time, it was this really blind faith, just blind faith that everything is gonna be okay, and trusting. I'm still in that. It's gonna be okay. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna make more money this year. Um, I'm going to get more clients, because you never know, right? You never know. For my workshop next month, am I going to have enough clients? You never know. It's a purely blind faith, blind faith and trusting that it's going to be okay. And the thing is that saying those words and actually doing it are two different things. And I had I did a lot of healing at that time. It was I'd say about a 6 month, and maybe not even that amount of time. It was like, it was less than 4 months, 3 or 4 months, where I was just like, I have to sell my house before I default on my mortgage. Right. And then deciding where I'm going to go. Like, I could get an apartment in the same area, but why would I do that? Right. Because I still can't find a job. I still don't have a job. I can't get into an apartment because I don't have a job. And so I just started looking around and thinking about where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And I've always wanted to live in the mountains. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Colorado. I'm just going to go to Colorado. That's where I'm going to go. I had actually, honestly, looked at another place in Asheville, North Carolina, with the Appalachian Mountains, that area. And I went out there. I looked for an apartment, couldn't find anything. Just like, again, doors were closing, right? And then I looked online at Colorado, and I found a long-term Airbnb. I thought, okay, it's like a really sweet place, so much more than I can afford. And I called them, or I sent them a message on Airbnb. I was like, I'm a yoga teacher and sound healer. and I'm looking for a long-term Airbnb for this winter, and just kind of explained what I was doing, and they're like, "Yeah, just name your price. How much do you want to pay for monthly?" I was like, "Okay." So yeah, so I went to that place for a month. I was literally in the mountains, and I didn't see people for days, honestly. It was like way up there. And then about a month in, I was like, okay, I think I need to get closer to civilization if I'm going to have a business where people have to be there for. And I then, yeah, came down to Colorado Springs and found an apartment in a day. And that too was the same thing, that doors close, 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 open, looking for an apartment because I had 3 pets. I actually brought my dog as well. She's now passed since then, but I had 2 cats and a dog. I didn't have a job. Nobody wants somebody like that in their apartment complex. And so I finally went into a few places, and last place I went into, I was like, look, I have 3 pets. I don't have a job, but I have savings because I just sold my house. Can you take me? Can we even begin the conversations? They're like, come sit down. And I moved in that weekend.
Yes. And Molly, you live in such a fairyland, actually. I went, Molly was my teacher, incredible teacher, so grateful, sound healing teacher. So I went to the Colorado for Molly's workshop. And Molly lives in such a fairyland, actually. That's how I can describe the village. So it's, yeah, I don't think you could have find better place actually, Molly, because it is very spiritual place, and
Yeah.
there's so many people who are open to actually sound healing, to energy healing, and yeah, all everything actually spiritual.
Yes. Yes. I feel very fortunate. So, and yeah, and I want to go back to you that, like, how did I manage the, that change? And, I talk about it and I smile about it. I mean, I'm pretty a happy person these days. And, um, but at the time, there a lot of tears, a lot of tears, right? So, because then I sold this house that was the perfect house. I still grieve my house, to be honest. I love that house so much. And then all the things that we collect, right? So my kids at that time, they were already grown, moved out of the house, they were on doing their own thing. And but I still had all their, you know, childhood school papers, and they both had their own rooms, so they had their things there, and things I had collected from my mom and dad have also both passed. So things that they had that I was holding on to, or um, I had also lived in Japan for like 11 years. And so I had photos. At that time, it wasn't digital, right? It was the actual photos. And so I had boxes of photos from Japan. Like, all these things that we collect that have these memories in them. And some of those things were, very dear to me, and some of those were like, why am I keeping this? It was like hurtful memories in the items, but for some reason hanging on to them. So as I was purging, I jokingly call it the big purge of my life, because I mean, literally came out here with just my sound healing instruments, and I had 6 totes of my personal items, and that was it. Some like 3 books and some clothes, and really all. Um, and so it was a lot of healing happened in that process of letting go of those things. And as I was letting go of those physical items, I was also letting go of a lot of that emotion that was connected to the item that I was holding on to. Right? So yeah, and that was, yeah, so that's how I dealt with it. I don't know if that's really dealing with it, but it was just allowing myself to release whatever I was holding on to that was just keeping me stuck in that spot, like, and not being able to move forward or see other things or see other possibilities. And yeah.
Well, Molly, they showed, I mean, that was like a beautiful process. I mean, I know it was painful, but also beautiful because little by little you were being so guided. And even with healing the past, kind of letting go, closing the doors, even with the staff, just like review actually what has value and yeah, what you can, and the most important things we always keep in our hearts. So they are always within us, right? We can always
Right.
take a mental picture of the thing and move
Yeah.
on. But the way, and then even I felt like for that man that you lived, like, out of the civilization, let's say, that was also like a process for you to just, yeah, come back to yourself, actually.
Yes. Yes. It
And it
it
was a new
absolutely
version of you.
it absolutely was a time of healing being there as well. It was, oh, it's just so gorgeous too. I could out the tiny house that I was living in it was in the middle of they call it the ranch. And so I would wake up to cows and sheep just looking at my porch, hanging out with me. And this like the sunset and sunrise, just absolutely gorgeous area. And it was just so, so peaceful. And it was, yes, absolutely a time where I could continue the healing process. Right. So letting things go, but it just, the healing doesn't happen in a day. Right. So we have to allow our heart to rest,
Mhm.
just be with ourselves and allow things to come to us or to look at things from a different perspective.
Yes, and Molly, with this, how do you look at the life right now? Like, yeah, what changed for you on a kind of like approach to life? And because we know your life changed completely. What about the approach now to life?
Yeah, so it's so different and in some ways very similar still. My goal is still to retire someday and to be able to travel more and those kind of fun things. That's still my what I want to do in the future. But um, yeah, I think the biggest thing is giving myself grace, allowing myself to be be allow myself to make mistakes or to allow myself to rest. I think that's a really big one, especially for me. As a high school teacher, I was really felt the pressure of being a great teacher, and doing exactly all the things that we were required to do, which of course we all want to do that, but gosh, the number of classes I was teaching and different types of classes. And we think about some teachers have like teach biology 1 for 6 classes, right? They teach the exact same content for every class, but I had a different class for every single period. So the amount of preparation I had to do was 6 times what everybody else was doing. So it was really like it was a huge job that I was doing. And so the pressure of doing it well and making sure my students were achieving and that type of thing. But not only that, it's just the um, wanting things to go smoothly and not allowing for that space for change or for to be flexible, right? And I'm not talking necessarily about in my classes, but like my schedule in my day. I'd get up at exactly a certain time. I would make breakfast, get the kids up. We would leave for school at a certain time. I would, I had my schedule at school and then I'd get home and this is what we're going to do, kids, from 3:30 to 4:30. And now we're going to do this and now we're going to do that. And I was packed. I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. But now I couldn't even if could see that I was exhausted, I wouldn't allow myself to rest.
And that's important.
Yeah, and that's a huge difference that I allow myself to rest. If I can't, as an entrepreneur, it's all me, right? And so as we know, and so if I don't get started right at 7 o'clock, which is my plan, most days I don't, even though I want to, 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it's okay. It's okay. It's all going to get done. And we're on this path that just being aware of where I'm being led. And even most recently, I have let go of my own studio and have started to I bought a van so that I'm more mobile, and it's just amazing the things that are opening up just by letting go of this place where it was again that old habit of like, no, this has to be right, just have to do it. And then realize that this isn't the right place for me. I kept getting the messages, but I wasn't looking at them. And then I was like, okay, I got it. I got it. Um, and let it go, not knowing where I was going to teach my next workshop or where I was going to do this next thing. Right. And so just I think that's a big part is letting go with that blind faith that it's going to work out. It's going to be fine.
I love it, Molly. First of all, you are like a superwoman, always like ready, and the way that you surrender, it's incredible, so inspiring, because you have that, like you said, blind faith, just that everything works out. And yeah, like putting ourselves first. I know I was working on that. I even have to sometimes say to myself, I allow myself, as I sit down, I allow myself to rest. Just even to say, be conscious that we actually allow to take a breath and slow down. So
Yes.
thank you, Molly. So how actually does your life look like now, like daily life, day to day?
Yeah. So it's either yeah, I'm either in full workshop mode where I'm teaching a workshop from 9 to 6. And with a workshop, those are the teaching hours, but the actual hours that I put in during a workshop, I'll be up and prepping by 7 o'clock, getting ready, making sure everything's in place and won't get done until 7, 8 that night. So it's either full workshop. That's all I'm doing for a few days. Or I'm usually sitting right here at my computer and working on marketing and making new programs and looking for new locations and submitting paperwork and giving feedback to my students who have submitted their workbooks and just like all of that. So it's either sitting here at my computer or in person, working hard and hard in a good way, working with my students at workshops or doing sound baths is the other thing I try to do 2 or 3 per month as well. So it's that constant planning, like also like it's fun too. Instruments, like which instruments am I going to take with me for my next program? So I might just like, okay, these instruments I'm not going to need for the next one, so I'm going to bring those back inside. The other ones can stay in my new van to wait until the next one, so I don't have to be carrying them in and out. And yeah, that's it. Basically, just yeah, get up and do some work and try to meet people, whether it's online or in person, to keep the word going. And
Yeah.
I get a lot of emails these days. So,
Course. And Molly, so can you mention you teach level 1 and level 2, right? Sound here.
yes.
Yes, Molly is incredible teacher, like one of the best. I am so grateful that our path has crossed and that we've met because I cannot even imagine better teacher to have actually. And Molly um, with teaching, but actually also with yourself, because you were getting the messages from your higher self from the beginning, actually. And how is your connection now with your higher self, with the nature, with the universe?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. It was back when I started this whole thing, that transition period. I was meditating I for the first time, and I was meditating 2 hours straight every day. And I think that that was a big awakening for me, was during that time. And it opened my eyes, my inner eye, right, for being able to recognize when things are different than what my brain is telling me, and to be able to, look within and to hear those higher messages. I think that was a great training period for me. It was about 6 months or so. I was really meditated about 2 hours a day, and then it slowly, after I moved to Colorado and I was out in nature and doing hikes and all these other things as well. So the meditation time has decreased a bit. Um,
Do you connect daily? Do you, yeah? How do you connect?
yeah, so at the beginning was I was doing the 2 hour meditations, and then that time I was also using sound healing because I was in training for sound healing. It was before I became a teacher. It was after I came out to Colorado that I was hired by the same academy where I did my teaching, and I did my training. And I was using the voice and humming a lot during my meditations as well. So usually at the beginning, about 5 minutes, and then using sound healing, using the voice for sound healing in that way. Um, and then slowly that time frame, like, whittled down. About 30 minutes. I do meditation for a long time. Currently, it goes back and forth. I'll be perfectly honest. I want to say that I meditate every day, but I really don't. um, but there are other ways that I connect. So, for example, yesterday I was sitting here and I was like, I just couldn't concentrate anymore. I needed to get out. So I went for a hike, middle of the day. I could never do that as a high school teacher, right? So I went for an hour hike all the way around town. There's a big mountain around our little city here. And so I went for a hike, and that really brought in relaxation for me. I slept so well last night. I mean, I don't sleep that great these days. And it's like, okay, that was a good reminder that I need to get out and connect with nature, connect with myself, get some physical movement in. Yeah, and I think also so a couple other things is that I still continue that 5 minute humming. And not every day, but I do try to work that in, and humming to release any areas that might be feeling stuck or imbalanced. And then the other thing is that we don't realize, I think, how much that we receive even when we're a giver of healing. So when I'm doing one-on-one sessions or group sessions, even though I call it in the zone, right? So when I'm doing a session, of course, I'm thinking about the group or the individual and what to do for them. But it's like this odd state of being aware, but also like connected with the universe and connected with my higher self. And, I call in my spirit guides and guardian angels and have them help me with what in the sessions. So I feel like that's a huge part of what I do, and how I stay connected is by calling in my spirit guides to help. And yeah, I was thinking about a time when I even sent my spirit guides out on an errand. I was like, could you please just go tell this person X, Y, and Z? I just really need them to understand.
Does it work?
And it worked. It worked.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Molly, I must say, yesterday we had one of the most powerful actually full moons in Scorpio. So if you slept well, it means that you don't have much to heal. Yes, yes, at that time. I mean, it was very powerful. So I am so happy to hear that.
Me too.
Uh, Molly, what one piece of advice would you give actually person who is on similar journey right now, on that actually phase that they are stepping to the awakening, like know that their life is they are not fulfilled with their life and they need change.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple things are coming to me. The first thing is the that blind faith, and it's so hard to just accept it for what it is, right? But thinking back over your life and how the universe has always had your back, right? The universe has always had your back, even or maybe especially when you are having a hard time, right? There was always something, even if you're going through a hard time, there was an end to that hard times. And people often say, like, when you hit hard, when you have a hard time, there's things are always be better on the other side, right? So I think one piece of advice would be to look back over your life when you were thinking about, like, I'm out here alone, I'm really scared, and then noticing what happened at the end of that period and how things changed, and just recognizing that the universe always has your back, and that is that blind faith, knowing that if you're stepping into that door that's open, that what's on the other side is going to be better, or going to still support you, let's put it that way. Of course, there's going to be challenges. There's always going to be a challenge. Even if you step through that door with blind faith, there's going to be hard times. And those are that's the learning process, right? The other thing that I'm thinking about that's coming to me is the David R. Hawkins. He's written a book called Power versus Force, and has the levels of different emotions and different vibration that all of these emotions are at. And if you look at that, the bottom emotions are fear, guilt, shame, right? And so if we're staying in that, and those are very stagnant emotions, very heavy, so they're going to keep us planted where they are. The then at around 200 vibration of about 200, when we get to there, that one, 200 is courage, to be courageous, right? It's above courage when you get into faith and love and the intuition, like connecting with that higher. So all these joy, happiness, it's above courage, right? So I always feel like courage is your turning point, right? So if you are stuck in fear and shame and guilt, it's hard to have courage. But once you get courage to do and act upon what you're having so much fear about, then you're going to step into that joy and love and connection and all of those higher vibrations. So I think recognizing that we have that fear, getting the courage to make the change, do the change, right? Make the change, not just recognize it, but make the change, and then things are going to start popping into place, and being aware of where those doors are opening.
Thank you, Molly. Beautiful advice. I didn't read that book, but thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna order it tonight. And Molly, can you share with us the beautiful work that you do? Can you, tell us where people can find you? Of course, I'm gonna post it under the video, but a little bit about yourself now, and how you can help people. How can you support them on that path, on
Yeah,
them?
absolutely. Yeah, I help holistic practitioners who are wanting to use sound healing in their business to gather and learn the techniques to be able to use sound healing. And then I also help people move on that path of with their business. So I'm also a business mentor, which goes along with the life coaching. And so as I'm working with people on their business and sound healing practitioners in particular, things are come up, right? And you have to step into that courage, right, to create your own business. And so it's not only that healing process of learning, to be able to step out into the world and create your own business of sound healing or holistic wellness, but also I'm showing people the how-tos, like the the things that, we're holistic practitioners, we don't want to do the website and the track my
Right.
finances and write down how many miles I drove today and all that stuff. So my business, that part of my business is I give all of that to my clients and say, this is the process. This is how I did it. This is how I was able to do it in 2 years. So so you can find me through the Sound Healing Academy if you want to get started on your process. Study at level 1, I teach 6 instruments: crystal singing bowls, Tibetan bowls, gongs, tuning forks, drum, and voice. And then if you want to use it for more than just an add-on to your business, stepping up into that next level, level 2, to become a practitioner of sound healing. And then if you're interested in the business mentorship, because once you get that level 2 practitioner point, then you're like, okay, now how do I make a business out of that? And that's where I step in with I call it Tune In and Rise Up business mentorship for sound healing practitioners. Yeah, and then of course there's all the things before that. If you're just like, I just want to try it. I don't want to necessarily get into a workshop, but I want to see what sound healing is all about and if it can help me, right? Right? We don't know until we actually try it. So around town here in Colorado Springs, Manitou, also up in Denver, around Colorado. And soon I'll be traveling across the country to Indiana. So I have workshops in Kansas City, Indiana in July. And in September, I'm going to the other side of the Rockies, Utah and California, for some more workshops and sound baths. So if you're interested in experience a sound bath or one-on-one program, I'm going to be all over the country this summer through September. So
Beautiful, Molly. I'm looking forward to see yeah, to see how your tour gonna go, because it's a tour.
yes, yes.
Beautiful. And
Yeah.
I highly recommend signing up to subscribe to Molly's emails, because she sends weekly beautiful emails with her beautiful stories and a lot of I have a lot of ahas always with your emails, Molly. They are very inspiring and eye-opening, I would say. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Molly, for this beautiful interview, for being here with us, for sharing your wisdom, your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was really a blessing to be able to be here and to be able to talk with you, Sylvia.
Thank you so much. Molly's information gonna be below this video if you would like to connect with Molly, which I highly, highly recommend. Sending lots of love. Have a beautiful day wherever you are.